Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something I know every single one of us has dealt with, the psychology of disengagement. If you have ever felt just completely drained by a conversation that's going absolutely nowhere, well, you're in the exact right place. We're going to use psychology to decode exactly why stepping back is sometimes the absolute most powerful move you can make. Seriously, have you ever wondered why some people just walk away instead of explaining themselves for the 10th time? We've all been there, right? You're locked in a conversation and you can literally feel your energy draining away. You're trying so hard to be understood, looping that same argument over and over, and suddenly, bam, you hit a brick wall. The exhaustion kicks in, and you realize, or maybe you see someone else realize, that saying it an 11th time, yeah, it's not going to magically fix anything.
And that brings us to this really crucial concept, healthy disengagement. Now, the key word you really need to notice here is consciously. This is not about throwing your hands up in a dramatic huff or just pouting because you lost an argument. No, healthy disengagement is an intentional, psychological choice. It's a strategic move. You're choosing to step back to preserve your own well-being, rather than endlessly fighting a battle you just can't win. All right, let's get into section 1, when words stopped working.
So our first point is all about recognizing the unproductive loop. Look, human beings are wired to seek resolution, right? But a huge sign of emotional intelligence is noticing when a conversation has just stopped. I mean, stopped exchanging any new information, you aren't communicating anymore, you're just running in circles. Both of you are basically just waiting for your turn to speak, repeating the exact same points with absolutely zero forward momentum. Okay, so how do we actually handle it? Let's say you've got a coworker who just loves to argue endlessly about some totally minor project detail. Instead of getting dragged into the mud every single day, try this. Step 1, notice the loop. Realize no new data is coming in. Step 2, consciously stop trying to win or prove you're right. Actually, scratch that. Just stop trying to convince them entirely. And step 3, step away. Just say something like, you know what, I think we both shared our perspectives. Let's circle back later. Boom, you break the loop. And that flows perfectly into our second pillar, giving up the need to convince. Honestly, so many of us trap ourselves into thinking our peace of mind depends on someone else getting us. But the reality, it's incredibly freeing. You simply do not need everyone to understand or agree with your perspective. To put this into practice, you really have to let go of needing universal agreement. Say you have a silly disagreement with a neighbor about, I don't know, community rules. You don't need them to adopt your worldview. You just accept they have a differing reality. Your reality, your feelings, your boundaries, they're entirely valid without their endorsement. By dropping that exhausting campaign to win them over, you completely preserve your own inner peace.
Moving on to section 2, protecting your emotional energy.
I want you to think of your emotional energy like a daily budget. You've got a chunk for work and life responsibilities, and hopefully a really big chunk for your loved ones and the things that actually bring you joy. But if you aren't careful, those unproductive arguments will swoop in and eat up your entire daily allowance. We dangerously drain our daily emotional battery on pointless conflicts if we don't actively manage it. Which brings us to point number 3. Energy is a finite resource. Just like money in the bank, you only have so much to spend each day. Imagine a friend who constantly brings drama to the table. Every call is a crisis, every text is a complaint. If you engage deeply every single time, you're literally bankrupting your emotional reserves. You have to consciously allocate those reserves and sometimes decide that certain situations just don't get a piece of your energy pie today. And protecting that precious energy brings us to our 4th point, setting boundaries and actually disengaging. This is where the internal realization has to become an active behavioral step. Knowing your energy is drained isn't enough. You actually have to enforce the boundaries you set to protect it. Here's exactly how you do it. Step 1, state your limit clearly. Step 2, physically or verbally remove yourself if that limit gets crossed. Remember, a boundary isn't really a boundary if it's just words. It requires action. Think about a notoriously hostile family gathering. If things get toxic, you state your limit. You say, hey, I'm not discussing politics today. If someone pushes it, you don't argue. You jump right to step 2. You go to another room or you just head home. Action, not argument. All right, let's dive into section 3, the myth of closure. This brings us to our 5th and final psychological pillar, internalizing closure.
Society completely conditions us to think closure means a sit-down conversation, mutual understanding, and a heartfelt, teary apology. But psychology, it tells a totally different story. True closure is an inside job. It absolutely does not rely on another person's cooperation or them finally admitting they were wrong. Just consider this. Closure doesn't always come from another person's explanation or approval. If you have a huge fallout with a close friend, you might wait years for an apology that honestly is never going to come. And if your peace depends on them making it right, you're giving them all your power. By internalizing closure, you make the decision that moving on and protecting your peace is your resolution. You find that peace within yourself, regardless of what they do. Which leads us to a really important reality check in Section 4, boundaries versus dodging responsibility. Listen, there is a massive difference between healthy disengagement and toxic avoidance. Healthy disengagement is all about protecting your peace, stopping those endless loops, and accepting differences. Toxic avoidance, on the other hand, is when people use the concept of boundaries as a weapon to dodge accountability, ignore their commitments to people, or literally just run away from anything that feels uncomfortable. I want to make this absolutely 100% clear. Accountability is not optional. Walking away doesn't automatically make you smarter, stronger, or more emotionally mature. In fact, if you're using the silent treatment to punish someone or walking away just because you don't want to admit you messed up, yeah, that is the exact opposite of emotional maturity. Because at the end of the day, serious relationships require work. They need honest conversations, mutual accountability, and a willingness to push through difficulty together. The nuance here, and the evidence backs this up, is that avoiding every single difficult conversation is deeply unhealthy. You just can't build trust, intimacy, or professional respect if your only tool is the exit door. You have to learn the difference between a toxic loop and a tough but necessary conversation. Now, for our final takeaway, Section 5, the power of choice. True maturity is knowing what deserves your energy and knowing when walking away is the healthier choice. Emotional maturity isn't about avoiding conflict entirely, and it for sure isn't about explaining yourself until you're blue in the face to everyone you meet. It's having the wisdom to choose your battles. You step up and communicate when accountability and connection actually matter, and you gracefully step back when the interaction is just draining your finite energy. So I want to leave you with this final thought. Where in your life do you need to stop explaining and start walking away? Think about those looping arguments, those completely drained energy reserves, and the closure you've been sitting around waiting for someone else to hand to you. Take this knowledge, apply it to your boundaries, and reclaim your peace of mind. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and we will see you next time.